It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Well, what's going on, everybody? And happy Tuesday night or Wednesday morning if you're listening to the podcast on Tuesday morning. That's how crazy it works. You can listen to it wherever. You ever know what day it is. Dusty and Tommy with you. Gazzola, what's up, buddy?
Not much. Just got a haircut and date night. So here we go.
Is this a first date or like a second or third date?
First date. So.
Oh, wow. So you get the haircut. Man, you approach dates way different than Jeffrey the Experience Walker over at 1260. I'll tell you that.
We call him the post-game ranger for a reason, and he's a different cat. I mean, he does walk around with spurs around that building. But, no, I needed
So you saw Chantal.
I saw Chantal. This is what she did. She's like, you can't slick it back. Thank you. Don't tell her, but I'm going to slick it back before I go.
I was gonna say, are you going out like that, or are you gonna tighten it up a little bit?
I'm gonna tighten it up a little bit.
That's okay. That's all right.
Understandable. I love her.
Well, best of luck. Best of luck on the date, buddy. Hopefully you have lots of success and it leads to a marriage one day. That'll be great. Well, remember, it started right here. And how do you celebrate a new relationship? With a Popeye's chicken sandwich. Nothing says first date like a chicken sandwich from Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen, the presenting sponsor of the Oil Stream. Of course, now open in West Edmonton Mall. And if you don't like going out in the winter, DoorDash, Skip the Dishes, and Uber Eats. Tommy, you can probably tell my voice is still a little tired after a weekend at Grey Cup. It was fun, though. And but now I am excited to kind of turn on my focus to the Oilers and the National Hockey League. Obviously, World Cup of Soccer, which will be big as well. But Tommy, I mean, there's a few things to discuss, and we'll get to what happened at practice today. Looks like maybe a little bit of a mix-up in the top nine once again. But let's start with the Boston Pizza Appetizer. On Tuesday night, a week from tonight, if you're watching on Tuesday, we will be at the Boston Pizza location on Calgary Trail, 6 o'clock for a live episode of the Oil Stream. So make some plans after work to pop on by. I'll come in, we'll buy you a beverage, and we'll talk some Oilers with you on Tuesday night at Boston Pizza on Calgary Trail. It's been win-loss, Tommy. What's over this stretch? And I think it's easy to say, though they haven't had Evander Kane for basically this entire stretch. But over this win-loss stretch here, they're sitting at 10-9 now. What have you seen as the constant themes during this 6-7 game stretch?
There was a time when they were winning games and they put together that 5-game winning streak, and they're winning games in different ways. To me right now, Dusty, they're finding ways to lose games in different ways. They get grinded out by the LA Kings. They bounce back with a solid performance against Vegas, and they win that. That's great. Then they go into New Jersey, and they are shooting themselves in the foot again, backing in on their goalies. I know that they got beat by a team that was just firing on all cylinders, but like this team's gotten blown out like it did against Carolina a week ago. It's not shown up like it did in that first game of the last road trip against Washington. Then it goes and plays an excellent game against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then it puts on another good performance in Florida. So they're consistently inconsistent. They're up and down, and the way they find ways to lose games is different on each second game, basically. So there's no real theme. Like, I know people want to be like, it's the goaltending, it's the defense, there's not enough forward depth. Nobody complains about those things on the nights that they win against good teams, because those elements and issues don't really pop up. Like, so they've found ways to lose games, different fashions, just like how they're finding ways to win on that 5-game win streak in different fashions. Like, I don't think it's just one thing you could point to and be like, that's the reason. That's my read on it right now.
You know, just as recent as this last game against the Devils, because you did mention one of the things there that they've been doing in games that they've been losing, finding ways to lose, is backing in at the blue line. Like, and, you know, I guess the Devils' speed can intimidate you a little bit, but, I mean, the Oilers' blue line, I mean, they do have some pretty good skaters. Like, I don't think they need to be worried about getting beat wide that much. And if you have the proper puck support, even if you get beat wide, you know, the help should be there for you anyway. So I think that's a sign of a team that, to me, playing to not make mistakes right now, as opposed to going after it. Like they're not being as aggressive as they should be defensively. I think that's something that should be able to be fixed. Like the coach is saying, here's the tape. Look what you're doing. You're backing in basically right on top of your goaltender and allowing New Jersey to get some of these first shots from, just above the hash marks. That's just not acceptable enough. I mean, Darnell Nurse, Tyson Barrie, recently
Kulak.
in the game to kick off this road trip, man, they looked at a place, and I was texting with the boys on Two Guys and the Goalie earlier today, and they said they think Darnell Nurse might be getting tired. Like, they think he might be playing just a little bit too much, and it's leading some mental fatigue right now. Where do you come out on that?
It's possible, but we know he's a workhorse, and he's never going to complain about it. Another thing that New Jersey did really well against the Oilers, on top of forcing them to back in on their goalies, is they were crossing them up. Like, how many times were they going across the ice with passes or just making moves with their speed, darting around? And the Oilers' blue liners were getting crossed up. The back checkers were getting crossed up. And then there'd be a soft pocket where the Devils would find a guy. And it actually led to a couple of goals. So, confusion, backing in too much, maybe intimidation. Like, you got to give the Devils credit for what they're doing because it is impressive. But at the same time, you're the Oilers and you could play a good defensive game. They didn't do that. They really didn't. I think that goal, the second one too, that Skinner gave away, I think that was a dagger.
That was a killer.
It lets the wind out of the sails, and that's where the mentality of the team and the competitiveness, it sags a little bit when you think you've got something going against a really good team, and then boom, something like that happens against you. That's tough to overcome. And they kind of did, but ultimately no. But that's a killer.
All right, a couple other things to get to, and we'll get inside the numbers in just a second, Tommy. I'm sure you saw it on the post game on Monday night, and it'll be a discussion if they continue this win-loss thing. Many people saying they have to trade for another defenseman to play behind Darnell Nurse on the left side, which will put Kulak back in that third spot where he was last year. Now, to go and get your hands on a defenseman mid-season, especially one that can come in and play 20 minutes, it's very rare. Like it basically never happens. How realistic is it for fans to sit here and go, Holland's got to grab a defenseman? Some of them are saying right now, some of them are saying before the deadline. I think Mike Dursa posted a poll of something Stoff was talking about with Ryan Reeves coming in. Like 43% of people were like, yeah, add the toughness in Ryan Reeves. I'm like, my goodness, like people are all over the place now with different ideas. I think the defense one is and should be legitimate, but is it realistic to think that they could actually do that here, buddy?
Okay, right. The Ryan Reeves thing, that's people grasping at straws. I don't think he's leaving. He's Gerard Gallant's boy, man. But the fans are frustrated. They want this team to succeed, and they're looking for solutions. So I understand where they're coming from when the team's losing like that. It's frustrating. I get it. Now, defensively, how realistic is it? It's realistic that they'll make a move for a defenseman. Is it right now? No, that's not realistic. There's still some cap constraints, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't think that they're actively looking. They do have some scouts out and about looking at some things. I do know that, but I don't think it's leading to something imminent. I really do feel like the group that they have right now, I get the sense talking to people that that's who's going to have to get it done. And that's frustrating. Now, there's a few things that could happen. The schedule, I'm not making an excuse about the schedule. It has not been an easy schedule. They've caught some hot teams. They've beat some good teams. They should be a good team. But, some of their Pacific Division foes are feasting on Anaheim and San Jose, and they're getting early looks at Arizona, and that's helped boost up their win totals. And the Oilers haven't had that opportunity yet. It'll come, but the Oilers will have to make sure their confidence is riding high when they get to that point, and they'll have to play some tough teams and get some wins against good teams before we get there. I don't think the help is necessarily coming immediately from outside. And talking to Pierre LeBrun yesterday in regard to Jacob Chychrun filling in for you on the Smash Hit Nielsen show, he really doesn't get the sense that the Oilers are going to be serious contenders for a Chychrun, because that's a name that I've seen on the post-game show. I've seen it when I fill in for you on your show. It's a nice thought, but I don't think it's realistic. Do
you think there's, let's prior to the deadline, if we're still sitting here going, they need to add a left shot D-man, do you think Ken Holland has to get that done, Tommy? Like, whatever the price is, do you have to do that this year for this team to be the true contender that we all kind of thought they were heading into the season?
Yeah, to be the true contender, yes, I do think they'll need to upgrade the left side of the D with a left shot guy. Ideally, maybe there's a right shot guy that can slide over, but that's rare, and those guys are few and far between. Yes, because, we said it in the offseason. It's like, hey, you're starting with a pretty good roster. Obviously, there's been some injuries, but it's going to have to improve, and areas of deficiency are going to have to be solved as well as the season progresses. The roster is going to have to evolve, and part of that evolution will have to be getting another solid defenseman on the left side to boost it up. So, yes, I think it is something that Ken Holland is going to have to do without question.
Still hope for Broberg sliding in here at some point, do you think, this season? Or is that past the point of, I'm sure he'll get some action, but I'm just saying that he's probably not going to become that guy, I guess, that you're looking for, right? Not right now.
If he can be a guy that's steady in his own zone, like, you never know unless you try it. And they're going to have to try him at some point, because you know what you're going to get from Niemelainen. Some physicality, not a lot of offense. You know what Ryan Murray is. He's a stopgap. He's supposed to be Broberg insurance. At some point, Philip Broberg, when he's fully healthy, I know he cut his hand when he was making food at home or something along those lines.
Everybody makes a mistake. What he should do is order from Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Exactly. Then you don't have that issue. But I think at some point he gets his look, and you hope that he looks like the guy that showed up at the end of last season and slides right in.
That would be a big boost. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. All right, let's dive into inside the numbers here for Coolbet. Stay cool, bet responsibly. If you want to bet the Oilers, do it over at Coolbet. You want to bet the World Cup of Soccer, you can do it over at Coolbet. They got like 1,000 markets for every game. It's absolutely insane over there right now. And with that Canada game looming, maybe you want to place a wager. So go do that over at Coolbet. Stay cool and bet responsibly. Tommy, the Edmonton Oilers have scored the 7th most goals per game in the National Hockey League this year. They've allowed the 5th most goals per game in the National Hockey League this year. And I know on my show this morning, people were saying, Dusty, they need to get some more goals from the bottom 6. I get it. But the goal scoring is not an issue with this team. It never has been. It never will be. The big boys are good enough, and they play enough, and they play all the time. They're going to get huge numbers. That's what happens. You got 2 of the most elite offensive players. Not once, ever, am I concerned about the offense for this team. But once again, bottom 5 in goals against, Tommy. Yeah. I mean, what's the solution there? This almost seems rinse and repeat from the last 3 years when we've heard the leaders of the team say, what we got to do this year is play better defense. Well, now you're down there. Arizona allows fewer goals per game than the Edmonton Oilers. Think about that for a second. Like, as much as people want to talk about toughness and this and that, you're bottom 5 in the league in goals against, man. Like, you got to figure that out. That's the issue here.
Well, and let's just make it clear, Karel Vejmelka is a superstar goaltender for the Arizona Coyotes, so he's holding the fort. I'm being completely facetious. Yes, and it is part of the problem is the blue line, and we talked about that being addressed at some point. It has to be, but really, as a 5-man unit from day one of this season, you can even go back into the last couple of preseason games. They have been sloppy in their own zone. They have been dog shit in their own zone at times, and they get caved in, and they allow unbelievably great opportunities against their goaltenders too frequently. And sometimes their goalies make those saves. Sometimes their goalies do not make those saves, regardless of it Stuart Skinner or Jack Campbell between the pipes. As a 5-man unit, this team is poor defensively. They don't get pucks out of their zone. They don't win battles at times, and they have terrible, egregious turnovers, not only at the offensive zone blue line, but their blue line as well. And all of that has led to them coughing up so many of the goals that they have, and has led to their poor defensive play. Like, they are terrible as a 5-man unit. It isn't just the defense, not just the goaltending. I look at some of the forwards and the horrible plays that they've made in this early part of the season, and I'm just like, well, it's not the defenseman's fault. You effed up over there.
It's the whole group. It's the whole group. Yeah, like the blue line could certainly be better, but the whole group has a horrible time defending. And obviously Jack Campbell has had some tough time, and the penalty kill obviously didn't help as well. But even when they won their 5 in a row, in 2 of those games, they allowed 4 and 5 goals. They just happened to score 7 and 6 to win those games, right? So, that's an issue that's got to get sorted out, man. Simple enough. You can't play like that.
Attention to detail as well is part of that. And where it also has cost them too, Dusty, is on faceoffs. They've had so many goals allowed directly off of faceoffs. That's just one thing I want to throw in.
That's got to get taken care of too. So they got to clean up their own end. I mean, to me, that's priority number one. And I don't care if it's via trade or everybody else just spending more focus. And a lot of it, we know that this team's like the identity is a high-paced offensive team built around McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yeah.
And I think they showed in the playoffs when they wanted to focus in on that. There were games when it looked like they could play that solid defensive game if everybody was committed to it. And I just don't see a mental focus commitment in the defensive zone so far from the entire group. And that's going to bite you in the butt unless you figure it out.
No, it's too lackadaisical at times in their own zone from the top down. Top down.
All right, that's going to do it for another episode of The Oil Stream. Tommy, we'll let you get off on date night, and no pun intended, that was bad. Take us out here. Take us out.
Thanks, buddy. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Smash that thumbs up button. We got to get that algorithm going. Ciao, ciao.
Talk to you on Friday, everybody.